Welcome to the Making Weddings Work podcast with myself, Stuart, and my good friend Toby. Now, we're both independent wedding videographers with about 10 years experience each in the industry. So our goal is to interview, talk to, chat with the most successful brands in the industry and find out how they've been successful in growing and scaling their business and achieving the success that they've got today. So this week we're delighted to welcome Carla from Team Glam, which is a London and home counties based hair and makeup company. It's headed up by Carla on the makeup side of things and her business partner Tara with the hairstyling side. They've got quite a large team of hair and makeup artists now working for them, so hopefully we're about to find out a lot about scaling your team in the wedding industry. Notoriously that's hard to do as people find that their brand is constricted to being about themselves. So we'll explore how and why she was able to move to that expanded model and the benefits and challenges that working in that way brings to her business. So Carla, do you think that was like a fair explanation of what you do? I mean, what is your setup as a business?
So I actually started working in the wedding industry because a friend of mine had also built a very successful business in the wedding industry. And she said to me one day, she said, why don't you come over into doing weddings rather than just editorial work? So from that point onwards, she started recommending me for makeup for jobs that she wasn't able to do. And then I sort of had a small network of freelancers that I used to work with as well. And then that's just kind of how we started to build the team.
And what is it that made you want to move from just being yourself, self-employed, to a whole team of you? What drove you to do that?
I think what drove us to do that was initially when we first started, it was a very, very small team. There was only 6 of us. And I think the main reason for that is because working by yourself as a freelancer can be quite a lonely place and it can be quite isolating. And I think it's really good when you speak to other people that work in your industry to be able to understand, their struggles, what they've tried, what they've succeeded at, and get an idea for how to build up, your own clients and your own reputation as well.
So was there a particular, maybe you woke up one morning and said, we need to kind of formalise this into a proper business now, or was it more of an organic, it just happened over a sort of long period of time?
I don't think we ever set out to have, we never had a business plan. We never set out to be a business. The one thing that I would say for both Tara and I is that neither of us are very good at just sort of being content. We're always kind of moving on to the next thing, thinking how we can, get some really good standards into an industry, how we can get people to recognise a certain level as, something that they aspire to have as part of their wedding day.
How did you go about naming the company and branding the company? Was that just the two of you doing that, or did you have outside involvement?
So the company name's quite an interesting story, actually. So when we first started just as freelancers, and it wasn't just Tara and I at the time, it was some other people that no longer work with us. People would make a joke and say, oh, don't worry, Team Glam are here, they'll get you ready. And it really actually wasn't, we didn't pick our business name. Our clients named our business for us, which was good fun. Initially we did have, when we first started, because we had no funding, we just had ourselves to kind of start everything. We used a really basic logo that we managed to do online. I think it maybe cost us like 50 quid or something. It wasn't a fortune. And then we actually rebranded the business about 4 years ago, just to kind of bring it in line with a standard that we wanted people to recognise us for.
Was there a point where you started to you started to act like a proper business owner then? You know, you said you've gone from just organically kind of finding your way. Now would you say that you're operating like a proper business as opposed to a freelancer who is self-employed basically?
We definitely have sort of standards and procedures in place now, whereas when we first started we didn't. I would say that in terms of taking things seriously, like Tara and I are very, very keen that our business always keeps a really good reputation. And we do over and above, I think, to make sure that happens. And I definitely think we're now really recognisable as a brand rather than just two individual freelancers. And I think as a result of that, you start to attract a certain type of client.
What's important to your clients to see?
I think when people brand either themselves or their business, what they're saying is, you can expect a certain level of expertise, of skills, of professionalism. Once your business is branded, people start to recommend you as a business rather than as an individual. And I think for us, what's become the most amazing thing is that when we go back to clients now, even if they say, Carla and Tara were recommended to us, if we say any one of our team members is available, people know that they've got the same level of skill, they know that they care the same. And I can't remember the last time we actually got an inquiry that came in where we said we're not available but our team are, and nobody ever comes back and says, okay, well, we don't want to book on that basis. So I think building a brand and building trust in your clients is so important.
No, that's interesting, because I think that's always a worry if you're going to expand, that how you maintain like your reputation, and if you've focused it a lot on you at the beginning, how you get clients to sort of recognise that other people can be sent on a job and that sort of thing. I mean, what did you do initially? Did you sort of take people on and give them sort of, I don't know, the simpler jobs and then build them up? How did you decide how to sort of work with freelancers?
So when we first started taking people on the team, most of the people came to us through recommendation, and I think they'd just heard that we were really busy and that we obviously had a lot of inquiries that were coming through. So a lot of people actually approached us to see if we were taking on team members.
So you sort of scaled it from there,
Yeah, so originally there was Tara and I, and then there were another four people. And then as is from a really honest point of view, when we first started the business, we didn't all agree on everything, and those four people decided that they wanted to part ways, and perhaps they didn't want to standardise how they were working. They didn't want to work to a certain level. They just wanted to go out and be individuals, and that was absolutely fine. So from the beginning, it kind of allowed us to say, okay, it's just you and me and Tara and I. What do we want this business to look like, and what do we want people to expect when they start to see the branding?
Mm-hmm. So that's interesting to talk. Not many in the wedding industry have sort of set standardisation. So how do you make sure that everybody is working to the same standards? Have you got like a document that you give them, or does it just come organically from you training them and that's how they know that they have to do it then? Or is it a bit more?
So thanks for asking that question. That's actually a really good question, because so many people say to us all the time, you do a creative job, does everyone work the same? Does everyone work to the same standards? And ultimately, the most important thing to us is that our clients know that our team care. And the one thing that we always do is we always trade test all of our team. So before they come to work with us, they will take a trade test. We will ask them to create lots of different looks, lots of different skills. We tend to go through all of their kits to make sure they're of a level that we would expect to be taken out to the clients. And then most importantly, I think, from my point of view and also from Tara's point of view, we're always really keen that when we meet our clients, they understand that we're listening to what they want rather than what we think they should have. And that is definitely something that we look for in all of our team, to be able to listen to the clients and for them to be able to create a look that is what the client wants rather than what they think they should have.
So how does that work with the sort of the consultation side of things? Is it still yourself getting involved at that point, or when is the inquiry almost sort of passed over to the team as a whole?
So from the first point that people inquire, most of our inquiries come through our website. I would say 95% of our inquiries come through our website. And then we have somebody that goes back and answers our inquiries and finds out from our clients what they want, what they're looking for, the kind of styles that they're looking for. Because obviously with what I was saying earlier, it is a creative job. So some of our team are, naturally lean towards, a very kind of boho style, or some will lean more towards a very glamorous style. So at that point, once we've actually spoken to our clients and we've worked out, what they want, the kind of wedding that they have, our consultation period is quite extensive. The things that we ask, we're really interested in the whole wedding, the styling of the whole thing and how that person will fit into that styling. So once we've worked all of that out, then we would go back and recommend members of the team, and then our potential clients would take to the website, have a look at the portfolios of the artists and stylists that we've recommended, and then they would come back to us and tell us who from those pictures they would prefer to have. Okay,
cool. So would you maybe still run into the issue of they've looked at all that stuff and they want a particular artist, but they're booked out? And how would you kind of still try and get the booking and give them someone who maybe they didn't actually, not that they didn't want, but maybe they were second choice? How would that work in then?
Yeah, absolutely. So both Tara and I and all of our team, we're not pushy salespeople. If we speak to people and we speak to them on the phone and we don't have somebody that, if they said, oh, I've looked at the website, I really like the look of, Sarah's work or Sam's work, and those people are booked, we will then say to them, okay, great, really glad you like their work. How about, Carly, her style might be similar. And if they come back and they say that they're not interested, then we would still be happy to recommend those clients onto another agency.
You say over time the sort of clients you've got have changed. What sort of clients do you think you have now? Who do you target? What sort of?
It's really interesting because our client base it varies a lot. So we can go from a really tiny wedding of maybe like 20 people, where a bride has really prioritised her styling, up to a huge great wedding of maybe 500 guests. So it's interesting with I guess pricing is always comes to a point, always comes back to a certain point. But for us, I think our clients are more based on where they put their value on that part of their wedding budget.
And then I know you've worked overseas, and I think you've worked in Dubai and Italy and stuff like that. Is that something that you set out? Was that one of the goals for the business? You wanted to be able to go international, or is that just something that happened organically?
Again, it isn't. It's something that we'd hoped for, and it's definitely something we hoped that we would be able to do. We never really specifically marketed to overseas weddings. We popped a few keywords into our website and sort of waited to see what happened. But no, it wasn't really ever the plan, and we now probably do around 10 weddings a year overseas.
Okay. And is that something you enjoy, or does it come with its own set of challenges?
Again, again, it is. I personally, I love travelling. I'm always on and off a plane. Tara's exactly the same. The team really love it. I think it's one of these things that people see. They see, oh, it's an international wedding team. People like that. Would we like to do more overseas weddings? We'd certainly like to do more overseas weddings as a team, because it's just a really nice experience for everybody to be able to have together.
In terms of growth, how much growth do you see year on year? Has it always grown? Did it grow exponentially at first and now maybe it's plateaued a little bit, or is it still going up? And what's your kind of hopes for the continued growth?
It's a really good question. So we did grow quite quickly. So in the first couple of years, we sort of started with about 80 weddings a year, and then we grew up to a couple of hundred in the first after our first year. And it's an interesting one because our business grew very quickly, and we had to take on more freelancers and more team members as a result of that. But we've probably done the opposite to most people, and we've actually scaled it back. And that's mainly because we've now got a team that we're really happy with. We're a manageable number of weddings. And I think most importantly, we're at a number of weddings now that we can maintain a really good standard throughout the year.
Mm-hmm. So just like really consolidating what you've got now and just making sure that's like foolproof.
Yeah, so
basically.
At our busiest year, I think we did 446 weddings.
Wow. Okay.
It's a lot. And like, how are you keeping track of that and sort of doing the admin side that goes with things? Is that just the two of you still doing it, or have you got systems? Have you got a VA? And who's helping you?
We've got a really good Excel spreadsheet. No, I'm just kidding. We do actually as well. Yeah, we do have systems. So it is just Tara and I that run all the admin side of it. We do have somebody that answers our inquiries. But really, it's interesting. When we first started the business, because we didn't really have any money. Like, we had no funding. We had, if we were going to be making investments, we were investing our own money, not money that we'd sort of made from work. So we were really, really lucky that we found loads and loads of software online that was free. So we used, for our invoicing, we used something called Wave, which is an app. We do use various different systems. We do have a CRM system. So fortunately for us, when we have an inquiry that comes into our website, it drops straight into our CRM system, and we're able to follow that up. And both of us are constantly kind of in this CRM system and making sure we're on top of everything. And then we have an invoicing system which is called Wave. We've been using that for probably 3 or 4 years now. But I think when we started, because we didn't really have any funding or any money to start the business, we just really needed to make sure that everything that we did was really, really cost effective. And even our CRM system now costs us maybe like £20 a month.
And that's Wave, is it?
No, so the CRM system is called One Page, and the invoicing system is called Wave. And Wave we do like all our accounting on. So, and because both of us also have a background in finance, we can't help but back it up with an Excel spreadsheet. So literally our Wave system, our Excel spreadsheet, and our invoicing all reconciled against our bank statement every month.
It's perfect every month. Oh.
We are literally, I'm not joking, we are the only business I know that to the penny can tell you what is in the bank.
And just to interrupt the conversation for a moment, to give a shout out to all the places where you can follow our journey on Making Weddings Work. So you can reach out to us on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, and on Spotify. So please get subscribing, get telling your friends, pass the podcast around. If you've got someone else that you know in the wedding industry that could benefit from the topics that we're covering, topics that we're going to talk about, the guests that we're going to have on. Please let them know about us. Please spread that love and let other people become more successful with their wedding business. Now, let's jump straight back in to the conversation. There's a lot of people, maybe they've been going like 2-3 years, and I guess that's the point where you're getting established. Maybe you probably are established, and you're thinking, I know that I'm not really being as efficient as I should be with my time and how I'm dealing with inquiries and stuff. Like, what would you say to those people to finally get them over that line of just paying that 20 quid a month? You know, because it is, in reality, like, it's not a lot, but I know from like my experience when I was at that point, you still feel like, oh, it's 20 quid, it's 20 quid here, it's 20 quid there, and before you know it, you know, you've got 3 systems and you're in for 60-70 quid a month maybe, but it's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely, because at any point for us, we can kind of go into our system and we can see, you know, it's a very corporate term, pipeline, and it's not really one that I've ever used during, like, when talking about weddings. But it's true, you can go in at any point and look in your CRM system and say, like, I'm potentially, you know, I've potentially got like 25 clients here that I could convert into bookings if I just make that phone call, and the chances are you'll always get 20% of those. So I think, you know, it's definitely worth it. A good, you know, it's like anything, isn't it? You can pay all the money in the world for a good system, but you've got to use it.
Well, talking about that sort of thing, I mean, do you how do you decide with pricing then, if you've got different people that work with you and that sort of thing? Is it an a la carte thing, or do you have fixed prices, or do you have prices for the different people you send out? How do you figure all of that sort of thing?
So we do actually have a standard price list. That's probably not the right wording, but we do have a price list, and I think for us it's just made things very easy to quote going forward. And interestingly enough, another thing about coming back to that is that without realising it, people do tend to kind of you know, have friends within a similar spending level. So when people recommend us onto friends for their weddings, the kind of price difference, you know, they're not expecting extortionate prices from one to another.
Mm-hmm. So can you just give us, like, you know, what did you start out at charging, and what's your kind of probably average spend now, like actual figures for that? Like, I'm sure.
Yeah, sure. So when I first started doing weddings, I think I was charging about 80. I mean, this was a long time ago, about £80 for a bride, and that didn't include a trial. Probably my average wedding when I first started out was maybe, I don't know, sort of £300-400. And now our average wedding is probably about £1,200. But again, it really varies. So Tara and I both work on a day rate. Our directors work on a day rate, and then we have team members that work on a price per person basis. And that's really because we want to be able to appeal to all budgets.
Oh, that's interesting. So do you make it, is it clear from the beginning that there's a sort of structure to the people that people go for? Does it work like a hairdresser's, where you have, if you want like the expert, it's going to be more? Is it obvious to people that that's how you're structuring it?
Yeah, so our price list, if that's the right thing to call it, is very simple. It's Tara and I and our directors work on a day rate, and everybody else works on a price per person basis.
And then is that something that's on your website, or do you send that to clients? Or?
It is actually on our website, and it's a really interesting thing. It's something that Tara and I continuously disagree over, because I don't think it should be and she thinks it should be. And I tell you what it does, and this is a fair play to her. It cuts out a whole load of admin time, because people always inquire about pricing. It's the first thing that they ask. So ultimately, if it isn't within someone's budget, it's kind of an email that we've spent time sending. Whereas if the prices are there, then people have then got a choice whether they want to get in touch and find out if we're available.
No, I'm in a similar position. I mean, we're both in a similar position that it's something that I change my mind on all the time. I currently don't have any prices, but I do get quite a lot of inquiries that I have to sort of send to someone else or ignore. Whereas Stuart has a more sort of a la carte, build your own design sort of thing.
Yeah, so I swear by having the prices on the website. But that more comes from like my personal thing. So if a company, no matter what it is, doesn't have prices on their website, I am hesitant to just reach out, even if it's something that you're pretty sure you can afford. It's still I just don't want to send that email asking, oh, how much are you? It kind of, so, but then equally, I thought, we've had the guest on before that said about, because you're getting all those inquiries, you're getting a lot more data. So maybe with those price-based inquiries that come to nothing, if you're tracking where they come from, like Google or Instagram or something like that, you can do something with that data. So there is actually a value getting created from them. I don't know, is that something that you do with your trackers and stuff? What?
Yeah, we do look at like Google Analytics, and we look at we do look at all of the inquiries that we get, and we look at which ones that we convert into bookings and the conversion rate. I think for us, it's really interesting. We tend to get booked at certain venues, and again, I don't know if this is a price point or it's just recommendation. I do know we are recommended at a lot of venues. And we do follow up those inquiries, even if people do ask for price. But one thing that we would never do is lower our price in order to get the job. It just isn't something that we're willing to do, because it's really interesting. For me, it kind of falls into the same thing as doing a favour for somebody. Like, if you're not being paid the rate that you've set because you feel that is you giving your best service and the best value to your clients, it's kind of like you're getting out of bed in the morning and you already don't feel like doing your best job. So I think for us, we're really strict on this. We would sooner say no thank you than discount our prices.
No, it's a perfect way to do it, I think. The second you've done that discount, you're just... Also, it makes you question your pricing and the way you value your service and everything, because you're already going, oh, I'm worth a bit less than I thought, so...
And the really interesting thing about that is 9 times out of 10 people will come back and book it anyway. Because if you're not a million miles off of your price, if their budget isn't a million miles off of your price point, and the person they can afford, they're looking at and going, okay, so we wanted Team Glam, but we're going to have, I don't know, another agency, and we're slightly over their budget, but the other agency are coming in, they will find the money to be with the brand that they aspire to be with.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. Yeah. So is that like, do you ever kind of? You said you don't really do this sort of sales push, but is there an element in that first email when they say, "Oh, thanks very much for coming back, but it's a little bit above our budget"? Like, do you push not push, but do you suggest anything then?
Yeah, we do actually. We quite often go back and we might say, what is your budget? What were you expecting to pay for this kind of service? And if people come back and that we're just way too far apart, it's for me, it's not worth a conversation, because we know we're not going to talk those people into booking us. But ultimately, if we're not too far apart, then rather than just go back on email, we would pick up the phone and we would say, it's been really nice to speak to you over email. Just wanted to phone, let you know that even if you've just got any questions or anything that we can answer, we'd be more than happy to do that. And I think that's the difference. It's that personable, service that people know they can come back and ask questions. I mean, and don't get me wrong, this is not something I would advise, and it's certainly not something that I do very often now. But in the beginning, I could spend an hour on the phone to someone about their wedding, indulging their day, and they wouldn't even book us.
Yeah.
So, you need a starting point to have a talk track with a client, and if you don't have that, then I'm not saying there's no point in picking up the phone, but you need to know that you're not a million miles away, so that you can lead that client to believe there is more value in what you do than just money.
Yeah. No, that's really I'd say that's quite a unique thing. I haven't heard of anyone taking that approach with it. I mean, could we just as much for my own benefit here, could we go into a little bit about what that call? How do you do that call? Is it yourself? You would make it?
Yep. So either Tara or I would make the call. We normally make sure that obviously we've emailed the clients and worked out a time that's good for them. And then we would call and we would just say to them, can you tell us about your wedding? Can you tell us what you're looking for? Tell us who's in your bridal party, what's really important to you on the day. Because I think for us, most of the time what people don't realise is, yes, we are a hair and makeup team, but actually the value comes in knowing that we're reliable. We've joked about it all the time. I've said this a million times to clients, and I always say to people, if you're a bad flyer and you're on a plane and you look at the air hostess and they're not worried, don't be worried. We've said to our clients all along, we will turn up. You do not need to look at the clock. Just enjoy your wedding morning. We have got this. We will have you ready out the door on time with all your photos done. Whatever you want your morning to be, tell us and we will work around that. And I think that actually goes a really long way. And when we get testimonials and reviews, people always come back and say it was so nice to be able to just enjoy my wedding morning without having to pull out my timetable or my schedule, or the team really had it and they really looked after us and made sure we had a lovely time whilst getting ready.
Because you say about charging for the trials, so is that something that people understand from the beginning? I can imagine some people thinking, oh, well, I'll come for a trial and that'll be free and everything. How do you approach the fact that, there's a cost for that?
The one thing I would say about trials, and the one thing that we have really seen a huge trend in, which never used to happen, is people have always accepted in our industry that they pay for trials. That isn't questionable. But I think the one thing that's really interesting to see is that people used to book a hair and makeup artist or a team for their wedding day, and they would assume that the trial was just for them to agree how they would look on the day. Now it seems that people book 2 or 3 makeup artists or teams for their wedding day, and they really are using it as a trial to try out the team. Which is interesting because that cost alone is quite substantial for people. I mean, if someone's having 2 or 3 wedding trials, they're probably looking at £400 or £500.
And so, do you then does that change the way you do them? Do you feel like you have to sort of be on your A game at a trial, or?
Trials are an interesting thing. Everybody's got their own way of doing them, but I personally think I've heard some horror stories like you would not believe when it comes to wedding hair and makeup trials. But I think somebody should leave a hair and makeup trial as they will look on their wedding day. I don't think there should be any of this, oh, but on the wedding day I'll do it like this. That's not where people buy it. They're not confident that if you can't do it, in time that they've paid for, if you can't do the service that they're going to have on their wedding day, saying, oh, I'll do it like this on the day, that's just not good enough. No one's going to buy into that, and they shouldn't buy into that.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense to me. That's what.
No, but it's a really common thing, Like, I hear it all the time.
So our Instagram handle is nice and easy. It's just instagram.com/MakingWeddingsWork, all one word. The biggest thing we're pushing is our Facebook community, where we want to grow, we want to have discussions outside of the podcast and as a result of the podcast. So maybe we have a guest on, we don't ask a question, we want you to be able to put that question forward and we'll go back to the guest and try and get answers for that, just to really create a thorough process and let everyone get the exact information that they want to help them build a better, stronger wedding business together. Our Facebook community group is also really easy to find. If you just search Making Weddings Work on Facebook, you'll get directed over there. When you request to join, there'll be 3 short answers that pop up just to make sure that you are a wedding supplier and that you will get value from the group once you submit them. Myself and Toby will then let you into the group, into the community, and you can post away anything you like. You can see the discussions that are going on there, you can see further information, and if you want to get something free from us right away, you can head on over to our actual website, which is makingweddingswork.co.uk, and you can download our free Get Paid What You're Worth pricing guide. That's totally free. You just enter your email and then we'll send it straight out to you. And that guide, basically, it's a shortened version of everything that I've talked about when I've spoke at wedding industry events and things like that. When we do consulting one-to-one, it's a topic that we touch on there. So it's just condensed down into a nice PDF for you to just take bite-sized chunks from, bite-sized notes from, and then you can implement those strategies right away and you can get higher paying clients just by changing these simple, quick things to do with your pricing strategy. Now, let's jump straight back into the pod with today's guest and finish our conversation.
Moving on to a topic in the wedding industry that's often sort of people have very different opinions on is styled shoots. And I heard someone recently make an interesting point that there is a benefit to them if you're the one organising them. And I know that it's something that you've done in the past quite a few times. So what benefits do you have from doing them, and do you recommend it to people, and do you think you should only do them if you're the one sort of in control of it? What are your opinions on that?
My opinions on styled shoots are you have to enter into it to get what you need from it. So if somebody phoned us now and said, oh, we're doing a styled shoot and it's going to be a really, traditional white wedding, I wouldn't give up a day of my time for that. Like, it's not, it's an interesting one. We do not need that kind of content. Like, I think you should do styled shoots if you need the content for your website or for, promotional materials, because as we all know, marketing is extremely expensive, and to be able to get your content for, not having a cash outlay, just having a time outlay is, a really beneficial way of doing it, especially if you're starting up. I think we've got to a stage now with styled shoots. Yes, we still do them. Yes, we still organise our own ones. But we do them for a specific reason, and that is because we need or we want the content that is going to be produced, rather than just wanting to be part of the wedding community or make more friends, or, it's just, I think the one thing that we have become really strict with is our time and, value and ultimately like where we're making the most money.
If someone wanted to do one, if someone's starting out and they're thinking style shoot might be the way to go, what are your tips, or what have you learned, mistakes maybe early on that you thought we shouldn't have done it like that?
Yeah, okay, so I have the one thing I would say about being creative is that, working with other creatives, we're very visual people. You need some kind of mood board, you need some kind of idea, because saying to somebody, oh, I do this lovely hairstyle in this dress and we could have flowers that look a certain way, the one thing that I know for sure is that things work because they've been given a lot of thought, and people can't just turn up at a styled shoot on a day with their contribution to it. Someone can't just turn up with their bunch of flowers or their wedding dress and their makeup idea. Because if everybody's, ultimately, let's just say we're doing a very boho style shoot, if someone turns up with like a perfectly round bouquet of flowers and I turn up with my idea of doing the 1950s winged eyeliner and red lipstick, and it's just going to be a complete disaster. So creatively, like, it needs to be a visual board. Everybody needs to be, the old saying, singing from the same hymn sheet, but they really do, because they have the potential to be a disaster.
And then do you have so have you ever thought this just doesn't work for us, or this doesn't fit our business? Are you quite picky about what you do and don't show on your website? From real weddings and from styled shoots,
Not from a real weddings perspective, because I think it's really important that everybody's got their own style, and something that may not be desirable to one client would be to another. I think it's really important to show like diversity in what we can offer. In terms of styled shoots, we definitely have got to the stage now where we would like to be working with certain suppliers and certain videographers and things like that, just so we can guarantee that the quality of what we're offering is on brand.
No, that's interesting. And do you see it as a networking opportunity as well, or do you prefer to work with the same sort of group of people? Or...
Do you know what? I think anyone would be stupid not to take any opportunity when they first start out, because nobody knows how quickly somebody else's business is going to take off, and how much that person might take you with them. So I think it's really important that you do network, and you do, I think it's really important in any industry that people look after each other. And if someone believes in your work, then it's really nice to have that recommendation. Now if people contacted us for a styled shoot and it was their first one, we, depending on what they were contributing, would be depending on whether or not we would join in. And
you've said, obviously, you're recommended by certain venues, and you've done styled shoots to help with the business. What other things do you think you do that have contributed to your success? So we've touched on networking a little bit, and what do you think are the most important things for you to retain clients, get new clients?
I honestly think the thing that we spent the most money on and added the most value to our business was our website, and the content created for that website, because ultimately, as a shopless or faceless company, that is all we have to put out to present what we can offer. And I think it's the images on our website that most people buy into, and the style of that website is what you've got really to sell yourself.
And do you incorporate social media into that same sort of thing? Do you view that in the same way?
A couple of years ago, it was really interesting. So we had somebody completely review all of our branding and our social media, and they wrote us a playbook on our business and how we wanted to be perceived and what we wanted people to buy into when they looked at that. And it was expensive, but it was definitely probably some of the best money we've spent. And it really helped us to align everything that we put out there, from our website to our Instagram profile to, even the kind of flow and the colours and the tones of our branding were really misaligned. And that isn't really something that either of us ever had any skills in or knew anything about until we got somebody to kind of look at it and say to us, this is a problem. Like, you need to if you're going to put yourself out there as a high-end wedding vendor, then you need to be, everything really needs to be really aligned.
No, that's interesting, because I think you can obviously get too be too insular and you want to do everything and control everything, and then you're maybe not seeing obvious problems with it, and having that outside perspective is really helpful. Was that like a branding expert? Was that someone who does branding as a...
Yeah, it was actually. It was a freelancer, and she initially took all of our social media content. She took all of our website, and she analysed it, and then she wrote this playbook, and we still refer back to it now. Actually, she said it's a very standardised thing. The actual playbook will never really be out of date for the things that we were doing. And then once she'd done that and she'd written the playbook, we then did 2 days worth of training with her to go through everything and work out how we could do it better.
And what is the biggest thing you changed, do you think?
I think the biggest thing we changed from that was because it wasn't just it's interesting, it wasn't just about our branding, it was also because it was a lot of it linked back to our social media. I think the biggest thing we changed from that was the routine that we had with our social media. So we would kind of just go, oh, we've got a wedding this weekend, we'll put some pictures on Instagram, to making it a real priority and almost making it like a daily task for us. So
you're talking about like posting new content, or like...
Yeah, do you know what? Not even necessarily new content, because, I think we do loads of weddings, so we can post new content all the time, but more posting content that was on brand for us. And the other really important thing that, again, it was, I'm no social media expert, but we've had some help. One of the things that was really key was the fact that, we really needed to build an online community of commenting on other people's posts, tagging people in, liking other people's things, which, again, it isn't really something that I knew a great deal about.
In terms of social media platforms, are there ones you use a lot now? Have things changed over time? Did you focus on, say, Facebook before? No, you don't, or
Yeah, absolutely. So when we first started, we just had a Facebook page, and we were really fortunate, actually, because this is a really interesting story. Like, I wanted to use a certain dress designer's dresses in our photo shoot, and I ended up, I can't remember exactly how, but tracking down the person that had done all their marketing, and they had a really good online presence worldwide, not just in the UK. And so we started with Facebook, and they sort of shared one of our pictures, because then they realised, oh, hang on, this person wants to aim at a certain level of weddings, like, let's show them what we can do. So they shared one of our pictures, it went viral. We suddenly ended up with like 20,000 followers that we didn't have, which equated to £0, which is really interesting, because people were obsessed with like followers means money, and it really doesn't. So we definitely sort of started out on Facebook, and then eventually we don't use Facebook at all now. We only really use Instagram. And I think the main reason for this is because I think as a business you can kind of go, oh my God, there's Facebook, there's Twitter, there's Instagram, there's Pinterest, we should use all of these things. We don't want to miss out on any opportunity to like get new clients. But unless you've got the money to pay a full-time social media manager, like, that's a full-time job. And if you don't really have a skill set in that, it's not only a full-time job, it's a full-time job you're doing, and you're not even really reaching the right people. So it's actually can be a complete waste of time if you don't know what you're doing. So we decided that we would only use Instagram. We use Pinterest mainly because of our clients like to share mood boards with us. But in terms of content that we post, we actually only use Instagram now, and that's because for us, we only have a certain amount of hours in a week, and it's just not, and don't get me wrong, because I know they can all feed each other through different algorithms, but it's not something that I think we've seen any decrease in clients or inquiries since we've just used one platform.
Okay, that's interesting. So you think you get a legitimate amount of work from posting on Instagram and stuff like that? It actually works for you?
I would say we get less inquiries through Instagram than we do on our actual website. 95% of our inquiries comes from our website. I think for us, what our social media profile does is it backs up our website. So people will find our website, then they'll go to our Instagram page, then they'll see what we're doing. They'll see people commenting on our posts and people talking to us, and then it kind of, it kind of builds the trust in the clients that we are real people behind these social media platforms and websites, because you get to talk to people and people thanking you for being part of their day, and I think it's really important from that point of view. I'm not going to lie, I don't know still, after all my social media training, I still would love to be an expert at it. And I'm sure if we were to invest more money in it, we would have tons more clients. But for us, it's just more about people having it as a way of communicating with us.
Yeah, okay. And do you do any paid advertising? Do you do anything like Google ads or Instagram ads or any of that sort of thing?
We don't do any paid advertising.
Okay. No, that's interesting.
Did you ever at any point in the past?
No. I mean, maybe, the odd agency.
But just a quick fix.
Yeah, maybe the odd kind of £100 here and there on a pay-per-click thing. If someone caught me on a good day and we'd done our accounts and we, found a bit more money than we were expecting, we might go, oh yeah, let's have a go at Google Click or, pay-per-click. But no, most of our stuff comes organically through our website.
Yeah. So, is it the referrals that's getting them to the website, or is it SEO? And
so it's interesting when we go on to Google Analytics. Most of the stuff that comes to our website are people actually searching either London or Essex hair and makeup weddings, or specifically for Team Glam hair and makeup.
Okay. So did you put any resources into ranking for those keywords?
Yes, we did. We put in a whole load of learn how to do it yourself via YouTube, and tagging all of our pictures. We have spent hours at this stuff, having a go, not having a go. We've changed all our keywords. We've ran analytics one day. We've sat up some nights and waited for 12 o'clock for it to all reset and go back onto Google and see if we'd made it any further up the list. And we really have played around a lot with our website to make sure we've done everything possible to optimise it.
Yeah, no, I think that's right though, because I think it is trial and error anyway, and they change sort of algorithms and all that stuff all the time. But you've never thought about getting anyone in to do that for you or anything like that?
Do you know what? I'm not going to lie. Very fortunately for Tara and I, we've had people in our lives that IT wise have got amazing skills. So that isn't something that's cost us money, but now I know the value in it. I would absolutely pay for that.
Is there something that you think has been key to?
Do you know what? I think the one piece of advice I would give anyone that's starting a business is consistency is key. We all have days where we think, oh God, the days when Tara and I have been, doing that thing with our searching on Google and looking for our website and thinking, where's our website? We've gone from page 1 to page 10 and back to page 8. And actually, the thing is just to be really consistent in your effort and to just not give up, because business is business, and unfortunately, as we all know, we don't always dictate the market. But what you can do is you can just make sure that you're always present and you're always there for when people are looking for your services.
Cool. And so where do you see the business in 5 years' time? Do you have a 5-year plan?
I don't do 5-year plans, and neither of us do actually. We're both quite fly by the seat of our pants kind of people. Where do we see the business in 5 years? Honestly, I don't know, and I'm fine with that, and I'm pretty sure Tara's fine with that as well. We have had many conversations about, you know, doing different things, developing different parts of the business. But I think we're just both quite happy with where we're at right now. That doesn't mean to say, you know, in future that won't be the case.
I mean, what drives you to keep going with it? You know, are there certain things that you've got, certain ideas that you want to try? Is it that sort of thing?
Because winners don't quit on themselves.
Oh, that's good. That's a good motto to have. And we've talked a lot about, like, obviously the hair and makeup stuff, but I know, and people can see this from looking at your website, you've also got different sort of avenues and maybe revenue streams in the business. You've got accessories on there, and you've got some training, like sort of masterclasses and all that. Is that something you've decided because you want to make sure you've got money coming from different places, or are they just things you wanted to test out as part of the business?
The training was kind of one of those things that sort of happened organically. We got really busy, and then people started approaching us to teach them. And as a result of that, because we didn't want to just say to people, oh, okay, yeah, we can show you how to do a nice hairstyle or a nice makeup. Like, we did quite a lot of research and realised there were a lot of people out there offering training, but we wanted to offer something that had more value. So both Tara and I went back to school and took a college class and got our teaching qualifications, which meant that we were then able to write accredited programs. So it's something, you know, it's something that we kind of really thought, what can we offer that's different to everybody else? Because, you know, there are 1,000,001 amazing makeup artists and hairstylists that can probably teach, you know, to maybe a better standard than what we can. But at the end of it, you know, again, it's like, what value does this have for the people that are doing that training? And for us, that meant that we needed to be able to give back some value. So we went back to school, we wrote our programs, and we had them accredited by an association called HABIA, which are the Hair and Beauty Industry Association. And very fortunately for us, the other thing it allowed us to do is HABIA is something that is really highly regarded in a lot of training institutes. So a lot of colleges that take students from maybe sort of 14, 15. And we were able to then go to these colleges and say to them, look, this is the training course that we offer. It's HABIA approved, and we would really like to come in and you know, hopefully inspire some younger students and let them come on the course and see what they think. So from a revenue point of view, that's allowed us to kind of tap into some government funding for education. So the accessories thing's slightly different. We started the accessories line because we really wanted to be able to offer our clients. It's a funny one. So people would come to us with an accessory and they would say, I've bought this accessory, I would like my hair to work around this accessory. Now, as a stylist, that's just not going to happen. Somebody might go and buy something super heavy and they've got really, really fine hair and they want us to suddenly make something work for them because they like it and they've spent 300 quid on it. Like that, we need to get, you know, we're quite realistic with people in our approach to things. So we would say to people, you know, if you haven't bought an accessory, we've got some that you're welcome to try it. Don't feel obliged to buy them, but if you like them, you know, we do sell them. And we just found that more and more of our clients were buying accessories from us. So then we sat down with a designer and we designed a collection. And And then we sat down and we worked out all our mood boards, all our branding, and then we took 2-3 days, I think, to shoot our accessories collection. And if I'm completely honest, it needs a bit more work. It's not the side of our business that, you know, has just taken off and done really well. And I think that's because we probably haven't put the effort in the social media that it needs. But in terms of people coming to us and buying accessories, then yes, a lot of our brides do. But the great thing about that side of the revenue is that we could potentially be selling to people that we actually have no other touch points with.
Would you ever think to like do training just on the business side of weddings, to maybe like we were both videographers, but like we've learned a lot from you today, so you could obviously give value to anyone in the wedding industry. Have you ever thought about like pushing that side?
Yeah, do you know what? Not really. And it's a silly thing to say, because obviously there is a huge amount of value in coaching people into how to build a successful business. But I think because really just, and this is more a personal thing about the nature of Tara and I as people, we're quite happy to help people. If they ask us a question about business, we'll give them a straight answer. It might not always be the answer that they were looking for, you know, the magic formula to how to make something successful, but it's generally a really honest answer and a really heartfelt answer. Would we go into business coaching? Never say never.
Yes, it's been really, like, thanks for being so open with your answers. I'm sure like everybody listening has got loads of value out of it. I know I have. There's some things to take away and think about. I'm sure Toby has as well. So if people want to follow your journey a bit more, where can they sort of reach out to you? Instagram, obviously, website and stuff like that. Yeah,
so our website is just teamglam.com, and our Instagram profile is just @teamglambridal. And all of the direct messages and emails are always answered by either myself or Tara, so feel free to get in touch anytime.
Perfect, that was brilliant, yeah. Hopefully some people will.